The phone rang at 2,347 hours. Jack Cade sat in his ranch house study, the only light coming from a small desk lamp that cast harsh shadows across military maps he no longer needed but couldn't bring himself to discard. He'd been staring at a photograph. Ryan at 8 years old, gap-toothed and grinning in a Little League uniform. Back when the divorce was fresh. Back when Lucy still let him take the boy on weekends without a fight. He reached for the phone on the third ring. "Dad!" Jack straightened in his chair. Ryan's voice cracked like splintering ice. "What happened?" "Not a question. An order to report. I'm at the police station." Ryan's breath hitched. "Wade hit me. He told them I attacked him first." Dad, they believe him." Jack stood, already moving toward the door. His hand found his truck keys on the hook without looking. "Which station?" "Colorado Springs Central." "Dad, I didn't." "I know. Don't say anything else. Not one word until I get there. Understand?" "Yes, sir." The line went dead. Jack pulled on his coat and boots. Outside, February wind cut across the ranch like a blade. Snow had started falling an hour ago, and now it covered everything in white silence. He climbed into his truck, started the engine, and pulled onto the dark highway heading east. 2 hours of driving through snow. 2 hours to think. He didn't turn on the radio. Didn't need the distraction. His mind worked through scenarios the way it had worked through combat operations in Kandahar, in Kabul, in places whose names were still classified. Wade Kinter, the man Lucy had married 18 months after the divorce finalized. A firefighter, a baseball coach, someone who looked good on paper, someone who made her feel safe. Jack had met him twice. Once at Ryan's school event, where Wade had shaken his hand too hard and smiled too wide. Once at a custody exchange, where Wade had stood on Lucy's porch with his arm around her shoulders like he owned something. Both times, Jack had seen what Wade wanted him to see. A competent man, physically fit, community-minded. Both times, Jack had also seen what Wade didn't know he was showing. The way his jaw tightened when Ryan spoke, the way his eyes tracked the boy's movements, the way he positioned himself between Lucy and any decision. A controller, a bully, the kind who waited until no one was watching. The truck's headlights cut through falling snow. Jack's hands didn't shake on the wheel. They never did. At 0147 hours, he pulled into the station parking lot. The building smelled like burnt coffee and floor cleaner. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Jack walked through the entrance, and the desk sergeant looked up from his computer. "Can I help?" The sergeant stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened. "General Cade? Where's my son?" "Oh, just a moment, sir." The sergeant grabbed his radio. "Officer Mills? The boy's father is here. He's, you need to come to the front desk." Jack waited. 30 seconds later, a young officer emerged from a back hallway. He couldn't have been older than 25, fresh-faced and nervous. "General Cade." Mills extended his hand, and Jack saw the recognition dawn in his eyes. "I didn't know, sir. We didn't realize who you were when we called." Jack shook his hand once, brief and firm. "You do now." Mills turned to another officer standing nearby and whispered, but Jack's hearing was sharp enough to catch it. "That's General Cade. He led the 3rd Infantry in Kabul." The other officer straightened immediately. Mills turned back to Jack. "Your son is in interview room 2. He's not under arrest, but the complainant is pressing charges. We needed to get statements from both parties before. Take me to him." Mills nodded and led Jack down a corridor. Through a window in a door marked Interview Room 1, Jack saw Wade Kinter sitting at a metal table. The man had his arms crossed, head tilted back, a small smirk on his face. A small cut above his eyebrow. Nothing else. Playing the victim. Jack memorized the room layout through the window. Table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs, one-way mirror on the far wall, camera mounted in the corner. Then he followed Mills to the next door. Ryan sat hunched in a plastic chair, his right eye swollen shut. A purple bruise spread across his cheekbone. His bottom lip was split. He looked up when Jack entered, and relief broke across his face like sunrise. "Dad." Jack moved around the table and knelt beside the chair. He examined Ryan's face without touching it, cataloging the damage. Fresh bruising, no more than 3 hours old. The knuckle marks were visible in the swelling. A right-handed punch delivered from above. Did they photograph this? Jack said. Mills shifted behind him. Yes, sir. Standard procedure. Did they photograph him? The complainant? Yes, sir. He has a small laceration above his left eye, and he claims. What does he claim? He says Ryan threw a chair at him during an argument. He says he defended himself. Jack looked at Ryan. What happened? Ryan's good. I filled with tears, but his voice stayed steady. We were arguing about my grades. He said I was lazy, said I was wasting Mom's money. I told him it wasn't his business. He grabbed my arm and shoved me against the wall. I pushed back to get away, and he punched me. Twice. Then he called the police and said I attacked him. Jack stood. He turned to Mills. Where's the chair? Sir, the chair my son supposedly threw. Where is it? Mills blinked. I don't. I'll have to ask. Ask. Mills left the room. Jack pulled out the other chair and sat across from Ryan. He kept his voice low. How long has this been happening? Ryan looked down at his hands. 3 months. Maybe 4. Why didn't you tell me? Mom said. She said you'd make it worse. She said Wade was just adjusting, that he didn't mean it. She tells me to just stay quiet. He meant it. I know. Ryan's voice cracked. I know that now. Mills returned. Sir, the complainant says the chair incident happened yesterday. Tonight was a separate altercation. Jack processed this. So he's claiming 2 incidents. Yes, sir. Show me his statement. Mills hesitated. I'm not sure I can do that without. Jack stood and walked to the door. Then take me to him. Interview room 1 had the same layout as room 2. Wade Kinter looked up when Jack entered. His smirk faltered, but he recovered quickly. General. Wade's voice dripped false respect. Didn't expect to see you here. Jack pulled out a chair and sat. Mills stood by the door, uncertain. Your statement, Jack said. Wade leaned back. Kid's got anger issues. I've been trying to help him work through it, but he's resistant to discipline. Tonight, he came at me, and I defended myself. That's all there is to it. Show me your hands. What? Your hands. Show them to me. Wade placed both hands on the table, palms down. Jack studied them. No bruising on the knuckles. No defensive wounds. No scratches. If he attacked you, Jack said, were your defensive injuries? A block. With your face. Wade's jaw tightened. I turned away. The chair grazed me. The chair from yesterday. Right. So tonight, when he attacked you, what did he use? His fists. And you defended yourself by punching him in the face. I did what I had to do. Jack leaned forward. His voice dropped to just above a whisper. You're lying. Wade's eyes darted to Mills, then back to Jack. You can't come in here and... I can do whatever I want. Jack didn't blink. My son has bruising consistent with an adult male's closed fist. You have a scratch that could have come from anything. He has a split lip and a swollen eye. You have nothing. He's 17. He's strong enough to. He's 17 and 140 pounds. You're 42 and at least 200. Jack tilted his head slightly. I've seen combat. I know what defensive wounds look like. You have none. Wade stood abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. Officer, are we done here? Mills straightened. Sir, you're free to go. But please don't leave town while we investigate. Investigate. Wade laughed. There's nothing to investigate. The kid attacked me. End of story. He grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair and headed for the door. As he passed Jack, he paused. Better teach your son some respect before he ends up in real trouble. Jack didn't turn around. He already knows respect. You're about to learn consequences. Wade left. Mills exhaled slowly. Sir, I need to release my son. Jack stood and faced the young officer. He's the victim here. You know it. I know it. And now Wade Kinter knows I know it. Mills nodded slowly. I'll process the paperwork. At 0430 hours, Jack and Ryan walked out of the police station. Snow had stopped falling. The parking lot was empty except for Jack's truck and Wade's sedan, which was pulling out onto the main road. Ryan climbed into the passenger seat and buckled his seatbelt without being asked. Jack started the engine and let it warm up. We're not going back to Mom's, Ryan said quietly. No, she's going to be angry. Let her be angry. Jack pulled out of the parking lot and headed west toward the ranch. Ryan stared out the window at the dark landscape passing by. Dad, yeah, he's been doing it for months. Ryan's voice was barely audible. Mom tells me to just stay quiet. She says it'll get better if I don't provoke him. Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She won't be telling you anything anymore. They drove in silence for another hour. As they crossed into the county where Jack's ranch sat, Ryan spoke again. What are you going to do? Jack glanced at his son. In the dashboard light, Ryan's bruised face looked older than 17. Looked tired. Looked like someone who'd been fighting alone for too long. Whatever needs doing, Jack said. The sun rose over the ranch at 0647 hours. Jack stood in his kitchen, pouring coffee. Ryan was asleep upstairs in his old bedroom. The one Lucy had made Jack clear out after the divorce because Ryan needed to move forward. Jack carried his coffee to his study and sat down at his desk. He opened his laptop and pulled up a secure network he still had access to. One of the benefits of retiring as a 5-star general was that certain doors stayed open. He typed in Wade Kinter's full name and date of birth. Waited. The search returned 3 pages of results. Jack read them all. Wade Allen Kinter. Born March 14, 1983, in Denver. Graduated high school in 2001. Enlisted in the Marines that same year. Deployed to Iraq in 2003. Promoted to corporal in 2005. Then nothing until 2008, when he received a dishonorable discharge. Jack clicked on the discharge paperwork. It was sealed, but Jack had clearance that went deeper than most seals. He read the report twice. Domestic misconduct. Physical altercation with girlfriend, resulting in hospitalization. Subject showed no remorse. Pattern of aggressive behavior documented by multiple witnesses. Recommended for discharge and psychological evaluation. Jack printed the file. All 14 pages of it. He placed the pages in a folder and wrote on the tab in precise block letters, Target. He picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in 6 months. Reeves. Colonel, it's Jack Cade. A pause. General, didn't expect to hear from you. What do you need? Information on a Marine. Name's Wade Kinter. Dishonorably discharged in 2008. I have his file, but I need to know if there's anything else. Anything that didn't make it into the official record. What's this about? He's beating my son. Another pause. When Reeves spoke again, his voice was hard. Give me 6 hours. Thanks. Jack hung up. He took his coffee to the window and looked out at his ranch. 80 acres of land he'd bought with his last deployment bonus. Land that was supposed to be a place where Ryan could visit, where they could fish and hike and rebuild what the divorce had broken. Instead, Ryan had spent the last 18 months in a house with a man who hurt him, with a mother who told him to stay quiet. Jack drank his coffee and watched the sun climb higher. At 1,500 hours, his phone rang. Cade, it's Reeves. You sitting down? Talk. Wade Kinter has a history. The 2008 discharge was the end of it, but there's more. 3 women filed restraining orders against him between 2009 and 2015. None of them stuck because he'd moved before the court dates. He was fired from 2 fire departments, once in Wyoming, once in New Mexico. Both times for altercations with colleagues. Why isn't this on his record? Because he's smart enough to settle things quietly. Payoffs, non-disclosure agreements. And he's got friends, guys who vouch for him, guys who think he's just misunderstood. Jack set his coffee down. Send me everything you have. Already did. Check your email. I owe you. You don't owe me anything. Get that bastard away from your kid. The line went dead. Jack opened his email and downloaded the files Reeves had sent. Restraining orders. Police reports. Witness statements. A pattern so clear it could have been drawn with a ruler. He added all the files to the folder labeled Target. Then he called his lawyer. Anderson Law Firm. How can I help you? This is Jack Cade. I need to speak with Robert Anderson. One moment, please. Classical music played. Jack waited. Jack. Robert Anderson's voice was cautious. Haven't heard from you in a year. What's going on? I need an emergency custody hearing. And I need you to file assault charges against Wade Kinter. The guy your ex-wife married? That's the one. What happened? Jack told him. Anderson listened without interrupting. All right, Anderson said when Jack finished. I'll file the paperwork tomorrow morning. But Jack, you need to understand, custody battles take time. Even with evidence of abuse, the system moves slow. Then we make it move faster. That's not how it works. Make it work. Anderson sighed. I'll do what I can. But in the meantime, keep Ryan with you. Document everything. Don't do anything that'll make you look unstable. I'm the most stable person in this situation. I know that. But judges don't always see it that way. Be careful. Jack hung up. He walked upstairs and knocked on Ryan's door. Yeah. He opened the door. Ryan was sitting on the bed, holding an ice pack to his face. How are you feeling? Jack said. Like I got punched. You did. Jack sat down on the edge of the bed. I talked to my lawyer. We're filing for emergency custody. You're staying here until this is settled. Ryan lowered the ice pack. Mom's going to fight it. Let her. She'll say I'm lying. She can say whatever she wants. The evidence speaks for itself. Ryan looked at his father. You're not going to let this go, are you? No. Good. Ryan's jaw tightened. Because I'm done staying quiet. Jack nodded. He stood and walked to the door, then paused. Ryan. Yeah. You don't raise your hand in anger. Jack met his son's eyes. I'll do that for you. Lucy Kinner lived in a 3-bedroom house on Maple Street in a neighborhood where every lawn was identical and every mailbox matched. Jack pulled up to the curb at 1,000 hours on a Tuesday morning, knowing Wade would be at work and Lucy would be home alone. He grabbed the folder labeled Target for his passenger seat and walked up the driveway. The doorbell chimed. Footsteps approached. The door opened. Lucy looked the same as she had 18 months ago. Dark hair pulled back, minimal makeup, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater. But there was something different in her eyes. Something tired. Jack. Her voice was flat. You can't just show up here. I have a husband. You had a husband. Jack held up a folder. Now you have a problem. Lucy's face hardened. If this is about Ryan's little tantrum, it's about your husband beating our son. That's not what happened. Ryan has been acting out for months. Wade's been trying to establish boundaries, and Ryan doesn't respect. Show me your husband's hands. Lucy blinked. What? His hands. Show them to me. I'm not. Because my son has a black eye and a split lip, but Wade doesn't have a scratch on him. If Ryan attacked him, where are the defensive wounds? Lucy wrapped her arms around herself. You don't understand the situation. Then explain it. Wade is strict, yes. But Ryan needs structure. He needs discipline. You were never around enough to. I was overseas defending this country. Jack's voice didn't rise. What's your excuse for letting a man hurt our child? Lucy's face flushed. Don't you dare judge me. You don't know what it's like trying to hold a family together when there is no family here. Jack opened the folder and pulled out a sheet of paper. Wade Kinter was dishonorably discharged from the Marines in 2008 for domestic misconduct. He put his girlfriend in the hospital. He placed the paper on the small table beside the door. Lucy stared at it. That can't be. It's his official service record. Jack pulled out another page. Here's a restraining order from 2011 and another from 2013. 3 different women, Lucy. 3 women who were smart enough to get away from him. Lucy's hands trembled. She snatched the papers from the table. Did you know? Jack's eyes locked onto hers. Did you know what he was? No. He told me he served honorably. He said. He lied. And you believed him because you wanted to. Because you needed someone to make you feel safe. Jack's voice was cold. But you're not safe. And you let Ryan live with a predator. You knew what he was. You let him touch my son. You'll regret it. Behind Lucy, footsteps sounded. Jack looked past her and saw Ryan standing in the hallway, a duffel bag over his shoulder. Ryan. Lucy turned. What are you doing? I'm leaving. Ryan walked toward the door. I'm going to live with Dad. You can't just. We need to talk about this. Wade and I can work on. No. Ryan stopped beside his father. You chose him over me. You told me to stay quiet while he hurt me. There's nothing to talk about. Lucy's face crumpled. Ryan, please. I'm your mother. You were my mother. Ryan pushed past her and walked toward Jack's truck. Lucy looked down at the papers in her hands. Her face twisted with anger. You're trying to destroy my marriage. You're jealous that I found someone. She tore the papers in half. Then in half again. The pieces fell to the floor like snow. Jack's expression didn't change. Read them or don't. Won't change what's coming. He turned and followed Ryan down the driveway. Jack, wait. Lucy's voice broke. You can't take him. I'll call the police. Jack stopped and looked back. I already filed for emergency custody. My lawyer called yours an hour ago. You should probably check your messages. Lucy grabbed her phone from her pocket. Her hands shook as she scrolled through her notifications. When she looked up, tears were streaming down her face. You don't understand, she whispered. I was scared. Fear isn't an excuse. Jack's voice was granite. It's a choice. He walked to his truck, climbed in, and drove away. In his rearview mirror, he saw Lucy standing in her doorway. She was kneeling now, gathering the torn pieces of Wade's file. Ryan stared straight ahead. She's going to hate you. She already does. Think she'll leave him? I don't care what she does, Jack said, as long as she stays away from you. Later that evening, Lucy sat alone in her kitchen. The torn pieces of Wade's discharge papers were spread across the table in front of her. She'd been staring at them for an hour, reading and rereading the fragments of text she could make out. Her hands found the pieces almost automatically. She reached for the tape dispenser and began pressing the torn edges together. The paper crinkled as she worked, reconstructing the document Jack had shown her. When she finished, the taped-together file lay before her like evidence of her own denial. She read it completely now. Every word, every accusation, every pattern of violence that should have been impossible to miss. Fear replaced the anger on her face. Her hands trembled as she touched the reassembled pages. She'd known something was wrong. Deep down, she'd known. But she'd chosen to ignore it. Chosen comfort over truth. Chosen Wade over Ryan. The front door opened. Wade's voice called out, Lucy? I'm home. She shoved the papers into a drawer and stood, wiping her eyes. But the fear didn't leave her face. 3 days later, Wade came home from his shift at the fire station in a foul mood. Lucy was making dinner when he slammed through the door. Where's Ryan? Wade demanded. He's with Jack. Still, it's been 3 days. Jack filed for custody. Wade's face went red. He what? Emergency custody. Because of what happened. What happened was that little punk attacked me. Wade moved closer. Lucy stepped back, her hip hitting the counter. And you just let him leave? I didn't have a choice. Jack, show me your file. Your discharge papers. The restraining orders. Wade's jaw clenched. You went through my things? No, Jack brought them. So you believe him over me? Wade's voice rose. After everything I've done for you? For this family. Wade, please. I gave up my life for you. Wade cornered her against the counter. I took on another man's kid. I tried to make him into something decent. And this is how you repay me. I'm not. I'm just trying to understand. Wade grabbed her arm. His fingers dug into her flesh. There's nothing to understand. Ryan is a liar. Jack is a bitter ex-husband. And you need to choose whose side you're on. Lucy pulled her arm free. Don't touch me like that. Like what? Wade's smile was cold. I barely touched you. You're hurting me. I'm making a point. Lucy moved past him and grabbed her phone. I'm calling the police. Wade laughed. And tell them what? That we had an argument? That your husband raised his voice? You grabbed me. Did I? Wade spread his hands. Prove it. Lucy's thumb hovered over the emergency call button. Wade watched her, still smiling. Go ahead, he said. Call them. See what happens. Lucy made the call. 20 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. They listened to Lucy's statement. They listened to Wade's explanation that they'd simply had a disagreement, that tensions were high because of the custody situation, that he'd never touched her. The officers looked at Lucy's arm. There were no marks. Ma'am, we can't make an arrest based on argument, one officer said. If there's no evidence of assault. He grabbed me. But there's no bruising. No marks. Wade stood with his arms crossed, looking concerned and patient, playing the worried husband. The officers left. Wade waited until their car pulled away, then turned to Lucy. See? They believe me. Everyone believes me. He moved closer. Because I'm believable. And you're just a scared woman who doesn't know what she wants. Lucy didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed next to Wade, staring at the ceiling, understanding for the first time what Ryan had been living with. The fear that no one would believe him. The isolation of knowing the truth but being unable to prove it. She told her son to stay quiet, to adjust, to not provoke. She'd made him live with this. The next morning, Jack discovered his truck vandalized. All 4 tires slashed, windshield smashed, The word coward spray-painted across the driver's side door. Jack walked around the truck, cataloging the damage. The cameras he'd installed had caught everything. He pulled up the footage on his phone and watched a figure approach at 0230 hours, face obscured by a hoodie. But the build was right. The height was right. Wait. Jack called the police. Officer Mills arrived 30 minutes later. Jesus, Mills said, looking at the truck. You get on camera? All of it. Jack handed him his phone. Mills watched the footage. Can you see his face? No, but I know who it is. General, I can't arrest someone based on a guess. It's not a guess. Wade's been threatening me for weeks. I have the text messages. Even so, without a positive ID, then get a warrant for his cell phone records. Track his location at 0230 hours. Mills rubbed his face. I'll talk to my sergeant. But, General, you need to understand, Wade has friends here. They're going to push back. Let them push. Mills left. Jack called his insurance company, then arranged for a tow truck. Ryan came outside in his pajamas. Holy shit. Language. Sorry. But Dad, this is bad. It's a truck. It can be replaced. What if he comes after you? Or me? Jack looked at his son. Then we deal with it. Jack didn't call the police about the harassment. Instead, he installed more cameras, better sensors, and he waited. That night, Jack sat in his study, watching the footage of his vandalized truck on repeat. At 0200 hours, headlights swept across his driveway. Jack stood and walked to the window. A sedan was parked at his gate, engine running. He recognized it immediately, Wade's car. Jack grabbed his coat and walked outside. The air was cold enough to burn. He crossed his yard and approached the gate. Wade rolled down his window. Even in the darkness, Jack could smell the alcohol on his breath. The man's eyes were bloodshot, his movements loose. Couldn't sleep. Wade's words slurred slightly. State your business. Just driving by. Saw your lights on. Wade's smile was sloppy, too wide. Thought I'd check if you were okay. Heard about your truck. That's rough. You're drunk. Little bit. Wade laughed. Been celebrating. See, I got a lawyer today. Good one. Says you don't have a case. Says Ryan's gonna come home where he belongs. Get out of the car. What? Get out of the car. Wade's smile faded. You threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. Drive away now, or get out and face me. Wade fumbled with his seatbelt, then pushed the door open. He stumbled slightly as he got out, catching himself on the car door. The smell of whiskey was stronger now. You think I'm scared of you? Wade walked toward the gate, his steps uneven. You're nothing without those stars. Just another washed-up soldier who couldn't keep his family together. Jack opened the gate and stepped through. Wade's eyes widened slightly, but he held his ground. What are you going to do? Hit me? Go ahead. I'll have you arrested. No, Jack said quietly. You're going to hit me first. I'm not. Jack stepped closer. You're a bully. Bullies need to feel powerful. So come on. Show me how powerful you are when you're facing someone who can fight back. Wade's fists clenched. The alcohol made him bold, made him reckless. You're crazy. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of watching you hurt people I care about. You think your stars make you a god? They don't. Wade swung. The punch was even wilder than it would have been sober. A wide, clumsy right hook thrown with more emotion than technique. Jack saw it coming from a mile away. He ducked under it and drove his fist into Wade's solar plexus with the precision of decades of training. The air left Wade's lungs in a rush. He doubled over. Jack grabbed the back of Wade's head and brought his knee up. Wade's nose broke with a wet crack. Blood sprayed across the snow. Wade stumbled backward, hands clutching his face. You broke my... Jack advanced. He kicked Wade's knee, and Wade collapsed into the snow. Then Jack dropped down and pinned him to the ground, forearm across his throat. Not enough to choke, just enough to control. Listen carefully, Jack said. His voice was empty of emotion. Clinical. You're going to leave my son alone. You're going to leave me alone. And if you ever touch Ryan again, I'll make sure you regret every single day you have left. Wade gasped for air. Blood streamed from his nose, soaking into the white snow beneath him. His eyes were wide with pain and shock and the sudden understanding that he'd miscalculated badly. I'll call the cops. Good. Call them. I have cameras everywhere. They'll see you showed up drunk. They'll see you attack me first. They'll see exactly what you are. Jack applied more pressure. Wade's face went red, then purple, just for a moment, just long enough to make the point. Then Jack released him and stood. Wade rolled onto his side, coughing and spitting blood. "You're done," Jack said, looking down at him. "You just don't know it yet." He walked back through the gate and locked it. Wade struggled to his feet, leaning heavily against his car. Blood covered his face and shirt. "You'll regret this," Wade shouted, his voice wet and broken. "You'll—" "No," Jack said. "You will." He walked back to his house and closed the door. Through the window, he watched Wade climb clumsily into his car and drive away, weaving slightly, leaving a trail of blood drops in the snow like breadcrumbs. Jack sat down in his study and called 911. 911, what's your emergency? This is Jack Cade at 4782 Ranch Road. A man just attacked me on my property. He was intoxicated. I defended myself. You want to send an officer. You'll also want to send someone to pull over the drunk driver heading east on County Road 17. Silver sedan. He's a danger to everyone on the road. Are you injured, sir? No, but he is. 20 minutes later, police arrived at Jack's ranch. Officer Mills and 2 other officers. Jack met them at the door and handed Mills a flash drive. Camera footage, Jack said, shows the whole thing. Shows him arriving drunk. Shows him attacking me. Mills took the drive. Where is he now? Drove away. Your patrol units should have found him by now. Mills nodded. They did. He's at the hospital. Then he'll be in custody. For drunk driving? That. And assault. Good. One of the other officers, a Sergeant Jack didn't recognize, stepped forward. Sir, I need you to come down to the station for questioning. Am I under arrest? Not at this time, but we need your statement. Fine. Jack grabbed his coat and followed the officers to their patrol car. As they drove, Mills turned from the passenger seat. General, I watched the footage on my phone before we left the station. He swung first. Clear as day. But you beat him pretty badly. He attacked me on my property while intoxicated. I defended myself with the minimum force necessary. His nose is broken. 2 ribs are fractured. Possible concussion. Could have been worse. Mills was quiet for a moment. Yeah, it could have been. At the station, Jack sat in an interview room for 3 hours. He gave his statement, answered questions, waited. Finally, at 0600 hours, the detective interviewing him leaned back. Mr. Kinter's blood alcohol level was 0.14. He was legally drunk. The footage clearly shows him initiating physical contact. And he drove to your property, which suggests premeditation. So you're free to go. We're holding him on assault, drunk driving, and violation of an implicit no-contact order related to the ongoing custody dispute. What about the vandalism? We're working on it. The footage isn't clear enough for a positive ID, but combined with everything else, we have enough to question him about it once he's medically cleared. Jack stood. Keep me updated. He walked out of the station into gray morning light. Anderson was waiting in the parking lot. Mills called me, Anderson said. Wanted to make sure you had representation. I didn't need it this time. But Jack, you're walking a thin line. I'm walking the only line that matters. Protecting my son. I know, but the system doesn't always see it that way. Then the system's blind. Anderson pulled out his phone. There's something else. While you were in there, police executed a search warrant on Wade's house. Jack stopped walking. What do they find? Hidden cameras. In Ryan's bedroom. Dozens of videos on Wade's computer. Physical evidence of abuse going back at least 6 months. Jack felt ice settle in his chest. Where's Ryan? At your ranch with a victim's advocate. He doesn't know yet about the extent of the videos. He needs to know. He will. But right now, let's focus on the fact that Wade Kinter is finished. The assault charge, the drunk driving, the videos, he's looking at serious time. How much? 10 to 15 years. Maybe more if the prosecutor goes for the maximum. Not enough. It's what the law allows. Jack looked at his lawyer. Then the law's too soft. Ryan was sitting on the porch when they arrived. A woman in her 40s stood when Jack approached. Patricia, the victim's advocate Mills had mentioned. Mr. Cade. Patricia. Jack shook her hand. Thanks for coming. Of course. Ryan and I have been talking. He's handling this remarkably well, all things considered. Jack looked at his son. Ryan's face was carefully blank. Can I talk to him alone? Jack asked. Absolutely. I'll be inside if you need me. Patricia went inside. Anderson followed her. Jack sat down beside Ryan on the porch steps. They found cameras, Ryan said quietly. I know. In my room. He was watching me. Yeah. Ryan's hands were shaking. How long? 6 months. Maybe longer. They're still going through everything. I didn't know. You couldn't have known. He hid them. That's what predators do. I feel sick. That's normal. Ryan looked at his father. His eyes were wet. What did he see? What was he? Why would he? I don't know. And it doesn't matter. What matters is you're safe now. And he's never getting near you again. Promise? Promise. Ryan wiped his eyes roughly. What happens to him? He's in custody. He'll be charged with everything. The assault, the videos, all of it. He's looking at 10 years minimum. That's not enough. Jack put his hand on Ryan's shoulder. It's what the law allows. But he'll serve every day of it. I'll make sure of that. They sat in silence, watching the morning sun climb higher. After a while, Anderson came back outside. Wade's been formally arrested, he said. Multiple charges. No bail. Judge called him a flight risk and a danger to minors. Ryan exhaled slowly. So he's locked up? He's locked up, and he's going to stay that way until trial. When's that? 6 to 8 months. But Ryan, you need to understand. You'll have to testify. You'll have to tell the court what happened. Ryan looked at Jack. Will you be there? Every single day. Then I can do it. That afternoon, Lucy called. Jack let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. On the 4th call, he answered. What? Jack, please. I need to see Ryan. No. He's my son. I have rights. You lost those rights when you let Wade hurt him. I didn't know about the cameras. I swear I didn't. But you knew he was hitting Ryan. You told him to stay quiet. You chose Wade over your own child. Silence. Then crying. Lucy, I thought if he could just adjust, Wade would calm down. I thought it would get better. He shouldn't have to adjust to being beaten. No child should. I know that now. Please, Jack. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Let me talk to him. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You made your choice. I was scared. So was Ryan. Every single day. And you told him to deal with it. Jack, please. He hung up. He blocked her number. And he walked back to the porch and sat beside his son. Was that Mom? Ryan asked. Yeah. What did she want? To see you. I don't want to see her. You don't have to. Ryan leaned back against the porch railing. Do you think she knew? About the cameras? I don't know. Doesn't matter either way. If she did, that means she's... Don't. Jack's voice was firm. Don't torture yourself with what-ifs. Focus on what is. You're safe. Wade's locked up. That's what matters. Ryan nodded slowly. Okay. 6 months later, Jack stood in a courtroom wearing his dress uniform. Not because he had to, but because he wanted Wade to see exactly who he was dealing with. 5 stars on each shoulder. Rows of ribbons across his chest. A man who'd commanded thousands in war zones and never lost his nerve. The courtroom was packed. Jack sat in the front row beside Ryan. Anderson sat on Ryan's other side. Behind them, Patricia and several other victim advocates. Across the aisle, Lucy sat alone, her face pale and drawn. Wade entered in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed behind his back. He'd lost at least 30 pounds in jail. His eyes were hollow, skin sallow. When he saw Jack, something flickered across his face. Fear, hatred, resignation. Jack couldn't tell and didn't care. Judge Martinez entered. Everyone stood. Be seated. The trial began. The prosecutor was a woman named Daniels, sharp and efficient. She laid out the evidence methodically. The videos recovered from Wade's computer, the photographs of Ryan's injuries, testimony from neighbors who'd heard arguments. She played clips from the hidden cameras, and Jack watched Wade flinch at the sound of his own voice screaming. Wade's lawyer, a public defender named Morrison, tried to paint Wade as a strict but caring stepfather overwhelmed by a difficult teenager. He called character witnesses, firefighters Wade had worked with, parents from the baseball teams he'd coached, people who swore Wade was a good man who'd made mistakes under pressure. Then Ryan took the stand. Daniels approached him gently. Ryan, can you tell the court how long you lived with Wade Kinter? 18 months. Ryan's voice was steady, clear. And during that time, did Wade ever physically harm you? Yes. How many times? I stopped counting after 20. Maybe 30 total. Maybe more. Did you tell your mother? Yes. Multiple times. What did she say? Ryan glanced at Lucy. She was crying silently. Tissue pressed her face. She said to stay quiet. That Wade was adjusting to having me around. That would get better if I didn't provoke him. Did it get better? No. It got worse. Daniel showed Ryan photographs. His injuries from a night Jack had picked him up at the police station. Are these your injuries? Yes. How did you receive them? Wade punched me in the face. Twice. Because I told him my grades weren't his business. So he struck you for talking back? Yes. Morrison cross-examined aggressively. He tried to suggest Ryan had anger issues, that he'd provoked Wade deliberately, that he'd exaggerated the abuse to gain sympathy and live with his father full-time. Isn't it true that you and Wade argued frequently? Morrison asked. Yes. And these arguments were often heated? Sometimes. Isn't it possible that during one of these arguments, you became physical first? Ryan looked Morrison directly in the eyes. No, I never hit him. Not once. You're absolutely certain? I'm certain. He was bigger than me, stronger than me. I was scared of him. I would never have started a fight I knew I'd lose. Morrison tried another angle. But you admit you pushed back when he grabbed you that night? I tried to get away from him. That's not the same as attacking someone. Some might say. I don't care what some might say. Ryan's voice remained calm. I know what happened. He hit me. He'd been hitting me for months. And my mother told me to stay quiet about it. Morrison sat down, clearly frustrated. Jack was called next. He took the stand and placed his hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Daniel stood. General Cade, when did you first learn your son was being abused? February 19th, at approximately 2,347 hours. Ryan called me from the police station. What did you do? I drove 2 hours through snow to retrieve him and take him somewhere safe. Did you confront Wade Kinter that night? Yes, at the police station. What did you observe? Wade claimed Ryan had attacked him. But Wade had no defensive injuries. No bruising on his knuckles, no scratches, nothing consistent with someone who'd been fighting off an attacker. Ryan, on the other hand, had a black eye, split lip, and severe facial bruising. What did that tell you? That Wade was lying. Morrison objected. Speculation. Sustained, Judge Martinez said. General, please stick to what you observed. Jack nodded. I observed injuries on my son consistent with being struck by an adult male's closed fist. I observed no injuries on Wade consistent with self-defense. What did you do next? I researched Wade's background. I discovered he'd been dishonorably discharged from the Marines in 2008 for domestic misconduct. Physical assault on his girlfriend that resulted in hospitalization. Did you share this information? Yes, with my ex-wife and with my attorney. How did your ex-wife react? She claimed she didn't know about Wade's past. Daniels changed direction. General, 3 weeks after taking custody of Ryan, you were involved in a physical altercation with Wade Kinter on your property. Can you describe what happened? Wade arrived at my ranch at approximately 0200 hours. He was intoxicated. He became verbally aggressive, then physically aggressive. He threw the first punch. I defended myself. Did you initiate any violence? No. I opened my gate and gave him the opportunity to leave. He chose to attack me instead. Are you certain he attacked first? Completely certain. I have camera footage that documents the entire encounter. The footage was played. The courtroom watched Wade stumble out of his car, watched him throw a wild, drunken punch, watched Jack respond with controlled precision, watched Wade collapse in the snow. When it ended, Daniel said, General, you're a trained soldier with decades of combat experience. You could have killed Wade Kinter that night. Yes, but you didn't. No. Why not? Jack looked directly at Wade. Because death is too easy. Some men deserve to live long enough to feel every consequence of their actions. The courtroom fell silent. Even Morrison seemed to have no immediate response. When Morrison did cross-examine, He tried to paint Jack as violent and vengeful. You have extensive training in combat, correct? Yes. You've killed enemy combatants? In war, yes. So violence is something you're comfortable with. Controlled violence in defense of my country and the people who cannot defend themselves. Yes. And you decided Wade Kinter deserved to be beaten? I decided my son deserved to be protected. When Wade attacked me, I defended myself. The fact that I have training meant I could stop him without killing him. Most people in my situation would have done far worse. Morrison paced. You took matters into your own hands. No, I defended myself when attacked on my own property. The police investigated and found my actions justified, or I would be the one on trial. Morrison had no response to that. The trial lasted 3 days total. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. The foreman stood. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. Wade's face crumbled. Morrison put a hand on his shoulder, but Wade shook it off. Judge Martinez scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. On sentencing day, the courtroom was even more packed than before. Jack wore his uniform again. Ryan wore a suit, the same one he'd worn to Jack's retirement ceremony 3 years ago. Judge Martinez read through the verdict. Mr. Kinter, you have been found guilty of child abuse, coercion, assault, illegal surveillance, and drunk driving. These are serious crimes that have caused lasting harm to a minor in your care. Wade stood beside Morrison, his face blank, defeated. The evidence presented in this trial paints a disturbing picture. Martinez continued. You exploited your position of authority in the household. You violated a child's privacy and trust. You physically assaulted him repeatedly over many months. And you showed no remorse. Indeed, you attempted to blame the victim for your own actions. She looked down at her notes. Your attorney has argued for leniency based on your service as a firefighter and community volunteer. The court acknowledges these contributions. However, they pale in comparison to the systematic abuse you inflicted on a vulnerable child. Martinez looked directly at Wade. You preyed on someone weaker than you. You used your physical strength to intimidate and harm. You installed surveillance equipment to monitor and control. These are not the actions of a man struggling to adjust to fatherhood. These are the actions of a predator. She picked up her gavel. I hereby sentence you to 12 years in state prison, with no possibility of parole for 8 years. You will register as a violent offender upon release. You are permanently prohibited from any contact with the victim, directly or indirectly. The gavel fell with a sharp crack. Wade's knees buckled slightly. Morrison steadied him. Martinez wasn't finished. Mr. Cade, would you stand, please? Jack stood. General Cade, this court recognizes that you acted to protect your child when the system initially failed him. This courtroom owes you nothing short of respect for the discipline you showed in handling a situation that would have driven most parents to far worse actions. Your restraint likely saved Wade Kinter's life. The fact that you chose to let the justice system handle this matter rather than taking final action yourself speaks to your character and your faith in the law. Jack nodded once. Thank you, Your Honor. Martinez looked back at Wade. Bailiff, remove the prisoner. As Wade was led away in handcuffs, he looked back at Jack one final time. Jack met his eyes without blinking, without expression, just watched until Wade disappeared through the door. Ryan exhaled slowly beside him. It's over. Yeah, Jack said. It is. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed with cameras and microphones. Jack walked past them without speaking, one hand on Ryan's shoulder. They climbed into Jack's truck and drove away. Where are we going? Ryan asked. Home. Lucy tried to visit the ranch 3 times in the month after the sentencing. Each time, Jack turned her away at the gate without a word. The 3rd time, she brought a stack of letters. Please, Jack, just give these to Ryan. Let him decide if he wants to read them. Jack took the letters. I'll tell him you brought them. He walked back to his house and threw them directly into the fireplace. Didn't even open them. Just watched them curl and blacken and turn to ash. Ryan came into the room. Was that Mom? Yeah. What did she want? To give you letters. Ryan looked at the fireplace, at the burning paper. You didn't even read them? No. Don't you think I should have? No. Jack's voice was flat. She knew he was hurting you, and she told you to stay quiet. That's unforgivable. Ryan was quiet for a moment. What if I want to forgive her eventually? Then that's your choice. But I never will. That seems harsh. Maybe. Jack watched the last letter catch fire. But I've seen what forgiveness costs. It cost you 6 months of documented abuse on video. 6 months of fear. It nearly cost you far more. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. Ryan nodded slowly. Okay. 2 months later, Lucy lost her job. The school board voted unanimously to terminate her employment after multiple parents complained that she'd ignored clear signs of abuse in her own home. Local news ran stories. Her face appeared in articles with headlines like "Teacher Failed to Protect Own Son from Abuse." Jack read the articles without emotion. Ryan didn't read them at all. Then Lucy's sister stopped returning her calls. Her friends distanced themselves. Women she'd known for years crossed the street to avoid speaking to her. The house on Maple Street went up for sale, but no one in the neighborhood would make an offer. No one wanted to live in that house. Anderson called Jack with updates. Lucy's moved to Wyoming, living with a distant cousin. She tried to find work, but can't. Every employer she applies to searches her name online and finds the trial coverage. Good, Jack said. That's cold, Jack. That's consequences. She had every opportunity to protect Ryan. She chose comfort over her child's safety. Now she gets to live with that choice. She's destroyed. Ryan was almost destroyed. The difference is Ryan was innocent. Lucy made her choices with full knowledge of what was happening. Anderson was quiet for a moment. Fair enough. 3 months after that, Jack received a letter. It had a Wyoming postmark. He recognized Lucy's handwriting on the envelope. He walked to his fireplace, started a small fire, and placed the letter on top of the kindling. Unopened. Unread. Ryan came downstairs. What's that? Letter from your mother. You're not going to read it? No. Ryan watched the envelope blacken and curl. She's trying, Dad. Too late. Is it? Jack looked at his son. She had 18 months to try. 18 months to choose you. She chose Wade instead. Every single time. Now she wants forgiveness because she's facing consequences? No, she doesn't get that from me. But maybe she learned. People don't learn from consequences they can escape from. She only cares now because she lost everything. That's not change. That's self-pity. Ryan thought about this. I guess you're right. I know I'm right. A year after the trial, Jack and Ryan sat on the porch on a warm evening. Ryan was filling out college applications. Jack was cleaning one of his rifles. Where are you thinking? Jack asked. Colorado State, maybe, or possibly somewhere farther away. You want to leave Colorado? Not really. But I also don't want to spend 4 years having people recognize me everywhere I go. People forget. Do they? Jack set down the rifle. Does the attention bother you? Sometimes. People either treat me like I'm broken or like I'm some kind of hero for testifying. I'm neither one. You're a survivor. Is that better? It's the truth. Nothing more, nothing less. Ryan set down his pen. Dad, do you ever think about Wade? About where he is? No, never, never. Ow! Because he doesn't deserve space in my thoughts. Jack picked up the rifle again. He's in a cell. You're here. That's all that matters. Ryan smiled slightly. You make everything sound simple. It is simple. Most people just complicate it. They sat in comfortable silence. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The ranch was quiet except for wind moving through the trees. Dad, yeah, I thought you'd kill him. That night, he came here. Jack didn't look up from cleaning the rifle. I could have. Why didn't you? Because death's too easy. Some men deserve to live long enough to feel every consequence. You said that at the trial. Because it's true. Wade gets to sit in that cell for 8 years before he even gets a chance at parole. 8 years to think about every choice that put him there. 8 years to understand that the stars I earned didn't make me a god. They taught me restraint. Jack set the rifle aside and stood. He walked to the porch railing and looked out at his land. 80 acres of peace. 80 acres where Ryan was safe. He rolled up his left sleeve. On his forearm were 5 stars, tattooed in dark ink. Each one precise, clean-lined, permanent. These stars, Jack said, touching them. Each one marks a command I held. Each one represents thousands of soldiers I was responsible for. Each one was earned through discipline, through following orders, through making impossible decisions. Ryan stood and walked over. He looked at the tattoos he'd seen 100 times, but never really understood. They used to mean rank, Jack said quietly. Authority. Power. But now, he looked at his son. Now, they mean restraint. The hardest decision I ever made was not killing the man who hurt you. That took more strength than killing him would have. Maybe, but these stars remind me every day that strength isn't about violence. It's about control, about knowing what you're capable of and choosing not to use it unless absolutely necessary. Ryan traced one of the stars with his finger. I'm glad you didn't kill him. Why? Because then he'd be a memory. A martyr, maybe. This way, he's just a coward in a cell, thinking about what he did every single day for the next 8 years. Jack smiled slightly. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. They stood together, father and son, as night fell over the ranch. The real stars began appearing overhead. Not 5, but thousands. Infinite. Unchanging. I'm proud of you, Jack said quietly. For what? For surviving. For testifying. For standing here with me instead of being destroyed by what happened. Ryan's throat tightened. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have. You're stronger than you think. But you didn't have to do it alone. That's the difference. Inside, the phone rang. Jack ignored it. Probably another reporter or someone who wanted something. Out here, the world could wait. Come on, Jack said. I'll make dinner. Let me guess. Steak. It's simple. It's good. Why complicate things? Fair point. They went inside, leaving the porch light on. In the distance, coyotes called to each other. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and sage. The ranch settled into night, peaceful and quiet. And 200 miles away, in a 6x8 cell, Wade Kinter lay on a thin mattress, staring at a concrete ceiling. He had 8 years before parole. 8 years minimum. 8 years to understand that General Jack Cade hadn't needed to kill him. Living with the consequences was far worse than dying could ever be. 8 years to feel every single day of it. Months after the trial ended, on a quiet afternoon in October, a letter arrived at Jack's ranch. The postmark read Wyoming. The handwriting on the envelope was Lucy's, still neat, still controlled, but somehow smaller than he remembered. Jack stood by his mailbox, turning the envelope over in his hands. He walked back to the house and found Ryan in the kitchen making a sandwich. Letter from your mother, Jack said, setting it on the counter. Ryan looked at it but didn't touch it. What's it say? Don't know. Haven't opened it. Are you going to? No. Jack picked up the envelope and walked to the fireplace. He'd already laid wood for the evening fire. He struck a match, lit the kindling, and watched the flames catch. Then he placed Lucy's letter, unopened and unread, directly into the fire. Ryan stood in the doorway, watching. Don't you want to know what she said? No. Nothing she writes will change anything. She might be apologizing. She already apologized. Multiple times. Apologies don't undo what happened. The envelope blackened at the edges, curled inward. Lucy's handwriting disappeared into ash. Mom's ruined now, Ryan said quietly. No job. No friends. Living with relatives who probably don't want her there. Good. That's harsh, Dad. It's justice. She had every opportunity to protect you. She chose not to. Now she lives with that choice. Jack watched the last corner of the letter catch fire. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. Your mother is one of them. Ryan was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Okay. Jack closed the fireplace screen and stood. You hungry? Yeah. Let's eat. They walked back to the kitchen, leaving the letter to burn completely. By the time they sat down to eat, it was nothing but ash and memory. Lucy never wrote again.